Welcome to the latest episode of the Radio Beaver podcast. This week, I sat down and had a chat with Dr. Fadi Babus'Haq, who is the club doctor and has been so since September time, and has obviously had a very busy year, not just with his role and responsibilities at Hampton Richmond Borough Football Club, but also as his role as a doctor in the emergency department at West Middlesex Hospital. In between all that, he also got COVID himself, so yeah, he's been a very busy man, and we talked to him about how he's found it and how, for someone who never had heard of Hampton Richmond Borough Football Club and as a season ticket holder at Manchester United, just what it was like to be part of a football club at such close quarters. So yeah, really enjoyed having a chat with Dr. Fadi, and hopefully you'll get a chance to say hello to him next season when hopefully he's still around, and hopefully you guys are back in the stadium. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this. One little plug I will make is that there's a 20% off sale on the club shop via our club shop on KS Teamwear. So you can get yourself a shirt, home and away. You can get yourself a pair of shorts. You can get yourself a training top. You can get yourself a training shirt, training shorts, whatever. All I can tell you is that every single penny that we obviously take through that club shop will help the club at this difficult time when, alas, there are no fans through the turnstiles buying burgers, buying pints at the Bev. Which is obviously a huge shame, but you can help support the football club in this difficult time, and yeah, get yourself some good gear. I've got plenty of it myself, I have to say. It's really good quality gear, the German gear, and yeah, and we're already thinking about stuff like that for next season and the like, and obviously being a centenary season, it's going to be special. So head to that, and also on May the 22nd, more to come on that, but at the very least, we'll be streaming a game from the Chris Sweet Rugby Stadium on May the 22nd. We are very much hoping that fans will be allowed in some form into the stadium. We are looking at that as a matter of priority and urgency, but obviously, as you can all understand, things are moving all the time on stuff like that. So we have to be careful and make sure we get everything right to put it into place. But that will be a game that will kick off our centenary celebration, so it's going to be a really exciting day one way or another. Hopefully fans will be there, and if not, at the very least it will be streamed on our YouTube streaming service. So please keep an eye on our social media and see for more details of that, which hopefully we'll be able to bring in the next week or so. But yeah, keep Saturday, May the 22nd in the diary, so to speak. And anyway, that's enough of me. Here's me now next talking to Dr. Fadi Babus'Haq, and hope you enjoy it. Thanks very much for listening.
Fadi, how have you ended up at Hampton and Richmond Borough Football Club?
I was just going into work one day, and everyone knows I'm pretty massive about football. My love for United is very deep. It's been there since I was very young. Yeah. Growing up around a big footballing family, I played football at a very, very good level back in the Middle East. Until I was about 15, 16, where I had to choose between education and football. Yeah. Coming from an only child, and I really didn't have a choice. I think my family kind of just said, you need to go and become a doctor rather than playing football. Yeah. So when I went into medicine, I always knew I wanted to become a sports medic. I knew the path would be long, it would be difficult. But when I started working, I tried pushing and tried doing things that were very close to sports. Never got the opportunity until one random day I walked into work, and my consultant, who I work in emergency medicine, so my consultant who actually lives in Hampton, she said someone offered her the job, but she said that she was a bit too busy for it, and that she would recommend someone else. She just said, I think you'd be very suited for this. Yeah. Why don't you look into it? I went on the Hampton Richmond website. I called Phil. Phil said, yeah, do you want to come next week and just have a look around the facilities? Yeah. Had a maybe 20-minute chat with him and Jack. And yeah, sooner or later, I knew I was in... I was sitting in my first game, and that was it.
Yeah, exactly. Straight into it. And be honest as well. Had you heard or did you know of Hampton and Richmond Borough Football Club? It doesn't matter if you hadn't, to be fair.
No. I didn't. No. That was my honest opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't.
It's what we obviously want to reach out to as many people as possible. I think what that ultimately shows, and we'll talk about this as we go on, just because you haven't heard of Hampton and Richmond Borough, you can soon find out that we're all right and we're good people and it's a great club. We'll go on to that, but I just want to come back to the Middle East. What's your background then?
I'm Iraqi. I was born in England. At the age of 5, my dad had to move for his job to Dubai. We're still living there at the moment, except me. Obviously, I've been here for the last 4 years, but my family is based there.
So your career as a potential footballer was cut short.
It was cut short quite fast, and a couple of injuries definitely kept me away from ever pursuing it further and further. I studied medicine in the Middle East.
And then you came over here, what did you say, 4 years ago?
Yeah, it's been 4 years now. So I did a year at Hillingdon Hospital working in intensive care and orthopedics. Then I came into West Middlesex. I was meant to do a lot of other jobs as part of my rotations, but because of COVID, I started in emergency medicine and then I stayed in emergency medicine because of COVID. And ever since then, I'm still there. And I'm trying to push into doing sports and exercise medicine now. Trying to pursue the path.
Luckily, obviously, you saw the opportunity online. I remember writing the post, and you know, if I'm being honest, I was a little bit concerned. I thought, of all the times to go out asking for a medical person, a doctor is, you know, just. I think this was around August, wasn't it? September time. So obviously, we'd come out of the first lockdown. Just out of interest, how difficult was that?
To be honest with you, it was exciting.
Yeah.
A lot of medical professionals over their careers of 30, 40, 50 years do not get to go through something like this ever. To go through it at such a young age, especially fresh off the block from medicine, it was definitely exciting. Yeah. The thing about emergency medicine is everything in the hospital closes except for that department. It is a 24/7 family that runs with the same team day in and day out, whether it's the nursing, whether it's the radiographers, whether it's the consultants, the doctors, the porters. Everyone knows everyone. If I don't go there for a week and I show up into another week, I have missed so much drama and so much stories that it kind of just sucks you in. And the thing about COVID is that everyone was so knit together that we just kind of formed our one really big family and one really big support system at West Mid that was amazing and that supported all the juniors and all the seniors that were there. So it was definitely an experience. Never did we feel that we were, you know, a bit behind or struggling. We all had each other's backs. It was actually amazing to see. And it's still going on at the moment. I know we're kind of doing very well in COVID at the moment, but everyone remembers how, you know, the time we passed together. It's something a bit special about that place at the moment.
Yeah, that's lovely to hear. And I speak from a little bit of experience. My mum and my brother, my sister-in-law, my auntie, my grandma, all NHS people. And I got asked on the podcast the other week about who's your hero. And I just sort of went, well, you know, I might argue it might be Liam Gallagher or Richard Ashcroft or a footballer somewhere on the line. But I think the last year has shown, hopefully to a lot more people, that they're genuine heroes and people like yourself and your team and stuff like that. You mentioned it was exciting there. I imagine it was really tough though and hard. And despite all the camaraderie and the team ethic, I imagine it was a pretty tough place to be.
The first month was certainly difficult because of the lack of PPE. And this isn't anyone's fault. It was just, obviously, we didn't know what we were expecting. Yeah. We were just not really prepared to tackle something that big, that fast. And it took us a while to settle in. There's a lot of things went by the first couple of months that could have been avoided, but unfortunately weren't. It was rough, you know, going back home, thinking, you know, you're left, obviously, the bubble that you have is very small. So you're left with your thoughts sometimes. But like I said, everyone at work was very supportive. Everyone always checked up on everyone. Yeah. We did go through some really hard times. We lost some really, really good people. But the good thing is that we've come out of it now and everything's looking good and we're doing very well at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Did you sense an opportunity to progress in, like you said, the sports side of things by coming to Hampton? All National League clubs at that time needed a doctor, someone to deal with that side of things. Did you have any idea what you wanted to do, or you're just like, this is a football club, I want to just throw myself into it?
I definitely had my own ideas, that's for sure. I know the role was to come in as a COVID officer. But I knew I could have provided much more than just that. I've got United season tickets, and obviously that wasn't going forward because we weren't having any fans in.
On that, I've seen a great picture of you celebrating a Paul Pogba goal where I think it's on the official Man United Instagram, and there's clearly you celebrating.
I haven't missed the United game. Other than the COVID times, I haven't missed the United game in 3 years now. I'm actually part of a very, very well-organized group called the Red Army, which sit in Stretford End. We're the only ground in England and the Premier League level that has standing section. Which is something that we're trying to bring back. It's a very close, tight-knit group of 1,000 people that everyone knows everyone, and we travel together, and we train together, we have breakfast together, we show up at games 6-7 hours before the game, and we just all get together and just sing. So this was definitely something that I was missing. So my dream is to be the United medic at some point. And I know how difficult it is, but I always knew if I get my foot in somewhere, I can always climb. And I said this to Phil, I want to provide something to the club that's something a bit different. What I want to do as a doctor in a football club is not just become the club doctor and sit externally. So what happens in a lot of these Premier League clubs is they have these head doctors that don't actually come to the games because the head doctors are running their clinics, they're GPs, emergency medicine doctors or whatnot. And the players get referred to these doctors to go have a look at them. What I wanted to bring was a gap between physiotherapy and the head doctor. Mark is an amazing physiotherapist, and I think he can do just as much as what a medic can do. But there are things that only medics are allowed to do. And I want to provide that on field rather than having it being shifted all the way to the hospital. So like shoulder dislocations, fractures, suturing skills, ALS, crowd safety. These are all things that I want to have at the ground rather than have away from the ground. And it's always good as a doctor to actually see the injury happen rather than hear about it later.
I hadn't thought about that. That's a good point.
There was also a game we played against St. Albans where one of their players got a big laceration that needed suturing. Ideally, he probably would have gone to hospital, but we managed to clean it and suture it on site and within 10 minutes.
You didn't just come in as a box ticking exercise for COVID stuff and things like that. Obviously, that's been part of it, and Phil mentioned it in the podcast that we did with him. So did Mark. The great team, but. Yeah, it's great to know that it extends, beyond that, and obviously only makes Hampton and Richmond Borough Football Club a better club for it. What were your first sort of impressions? Was it a welcoming club? Because you didn't, like you said, you didn't know about it, which is totally fine. We've got to try and make sure more people know about it because it's a good club, isn't it?
It's a brilliant club. I fell in love with the club, to be honest with you. The people that run the club, the players themselves, the manager, the gaffer, everything about it was amazing. I wish I could have been a bit more help for Mark, but obviously I'm not very well skilled with physiotherapy as he is. In the beginning, in the first couple of weeks, I felt like I was a bit of a fly on the wall. But as I got to know the players more personally, like Rudders, Chaza, and all them, they were brilliant and very welcoming. And once I got to know everyone, it was just a great experience to be in. And obviously, it was very good to just be close to football and also provide skills that I had. The kind of deal that I had with Mark was if Mark ever needed me on the pitch for any head injuries, or anything a bit more advanced, then I would definitely come on. Otherwise, we could always assess the player after the game is finished. and before the next game if needed. If any intervention was needed in between those, then I would be able to sort it out. Like once at the training ground, I had to get Miles a scan for his head because he had a loss of consciousness and a bit of a concussion. Obviously, that he would have waited maybe about 6 to 7 hours to get, but because we were there, managed to take him to hospital straight away, get the scan done in under 2 hours, and everything was great. So there was an understanding there. So obviously, Mark went on field. He examined him. He deemed him that he was possibility to continue. But obviously, when the player feels like he can't play,
especially Charlie. I mean, Charlie.
Especially Charlie. And obviously, we were playing a tough game. We were playing Hemel that day.
Yeah. And 4G pitch as well, which didn't help, but there wasn't much room for the runoff, and Charlie banged into the wall, didn't he? I think,
Exactly. And actually, the injury that he sustained that day is very, very, very rare. That is very hard to pick up, not even on X-rays or anything. He had to go for an MRI to get it done. It was an isolated injury that actually never happens as an isolated injury. Usually when you tear that muscle, you have to tear other muscles that go with it. Yeah. But it was a very unique injury, that's for sure.
Oh, well, there you are. They've heard it from Fadi there. That's why we obviously lost Charlie, and he was out for most of the rest of the season. I know he was coming back when COVID came along and stuff. You went to hospital with him, didn't you? And then obviously, so you saw the whole process through, like you're saying, about the MRI scans and stuff.
Of course. And I'm in contact with most of the players that I've dealt with on a medical level. So like our brothers or Charlie, Miles, I try to stay in contact with them if they ever need anything. Yeah. And I've told the players that I think most of them have my number now. If they ever need anything, even out of hospital, in terms of medical help or even questions unrelated to football, my doors are always open. I mean, we're just like one big Beaver family.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's what I want to hear. You obviously had a privileged position, like I did, seeing the players in such close quarters. They certainly were last season, but they're a really good group, aren't they? Not just the players, but the staff. There's a good atmosphere about it. I know it's hard to convey sometimes, but it's a good group of people, isn't it, all round?
Definitely. I mean, especially we were very lucky to keep some of the players from last year, from 2 years ago. So everyone was a bit more tight-knit. The dressing room was great. The only thing we were missing was probably maybe we could have gone out and obviously to the bars and get everyone a bit more closer and get everyone together. But with everything that was going on, I felt like this group really, really knew each other inside out. Yeah. The gaffer was great. Smalls is great. Fred, Fad, and everyone awesome. JP was great. I mean, I can keep going on and on about how.
I know what you mean, because I felt the same thing when I first was lucky enough to get in that circle, so to speak. But as someone who obviously loves football, you've got a season ticket at Manchester United. What was it like to sort of be in an inner circle of a football club? Again, I speak for myself here. I really enjoy it. You get to see how all these things come together and into a 6-2 win away at Billericay. All these little parts add up, don't they?
I remember that 6-2. That was an amazing day.
It was good, wasn't it? It was good.
That was great. For me, because of me playing when I was up to under 15s and under 16s back in the Middle East, having that locker room feeling, even going to university, I captained my side back in university as well. Yeah. Our locker rooms were never as professional. Obviously, most of the people in our team were doctors, so most of them had to put their education first. But for me, I mean, playing football, you could tell me I have an exam tomorrow and you wanted me to play today, I would be already in shorts. I'd be lacing up my boots and ready to go. Yeah. I felt like this was being in a locker room and being with a gaffer that is as passionate as he is about football as I am, and being with a team of professionals that have been doing this for a very long time is what I always thought that would happen to me as a football player. Yeah. And the fact that it didn't, I'm kind of like reliving my dream. I always said if I could never make it on there as a football player, I'd like to make it as a professional in any other way, whether it's media or medicine or anything. So to be part of that system and a part of that build-up, I feel very honored that they would accept me into their locker room so I can hear the gaffer talk, it's definitely increased my insight onto how managers deal with clubs. It's obviously not as straightforward as, you turn on the TV, you watch 90 minutes, and then, I'll see you in 3 days when we play our next game.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that goes into the football club than anyone thinks. And that has definitely been the one thing that has opened my eyes towards football. And obviously, as we go up on the level, there'll be way more things to handle, different staff, different teams. But it's just being in that locker room, for me personally, was kind of like a dream come true, regardless whether it would have been Hampton or Man United. They're both treated just as equally.
That's lovely. That's good to hear. And I think it reflects a little bit what I think as well about the football club. It's a great place to be. And obviously we're at games without fans and, on the sidelines. It was strange, wasn't it? It never seemed to affect them too much. You might have done a little bit at the very start of the season, but we played some good football, didn't we?
Definitely, 100%. There were times where we played football that you'd see us play and then you'd go like, how are we not top of the league? How have we not made it to the top of the league yet? And if we continued playing, in my opinion, we would have definitely broken to promotion.
Yeah.
100%.
It was all building, wasn't it? It's a real frustration. November, December time, did you really notice the return of COVID, shall we say?
Yeah, I mean, at work, we obviously had a bit of a insight that it was happening. And obviously in December, when the league's been going on for a very long time without any disruptions, and then when you start having teams that are missing 2 games and you start having teams that are missing 3 games because they're postponed, it's just very hard to find a form. It's very hard to find consistency, because you're playing this week and then you're not playing next week, you're not playing the week after that, and you're playing again. And I know there's a lot of friendlies or things that are happening behind doors, but it's just not the same when you're coming at that intensity at all times. It was difficult around the end of November, beginning of December, when teams started to drop off, and obviously we had a 2-week period where we didn't play because of a COVID outbreak. It just throws players off. If the season was a bit more streamlined and everything was going on well, then I do find that we would have probably done a bit better than in November and December time. But I know we always go back to the 6-2 as a point of best games. But for me, it was definitely the Oxford City game.
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it, that one?
That game for me was, I think that's the best we've played in a very, very, very long time.
Yeah. It was good, that one, and they were flying. They were about to play an FA Cup game. I think they were in the next round after the one that we lost, obviously. But did the day job sort of open your eyes a little bit and go, things are things aren't only not getting better, things are getting increasingly worse? Definitely.
I mean, I was always in contact with Mark, and I was always telling him that, things are getting slightly worse. We should prepare that there's a possibility we might not continue. There's a possibility we might cancel. There's a possibility we might postpone the season. But obviously we kept pushing and pushing, but the signs were there at work with coming back, and obviously the news and the government trying to close everything down again. It was going to happen, kind of thing. We just tried pushing and pushing as much as we can.
You had COVID yourself, didn't you? If you want, what was it like? To have it.
It was an experience.
Yeah.
And obviously I see the elderly, the 50-year-olds and the 60-year-olds who get it. And we know the symptoms, and they tell you the difficulty of breathing and all that. But when it happens to a 28-year-old, when you're under 30, it is a bit of a frightening experience. I think on day 7, I had a very bad headache for the first 6 days, but on day 7 and 8, I couldn't even climb some steps. I couldn't even go upstairs to my bedroom. I'd have to sit on the top. Difficulty in breathing, but 2 or 3 days after that, I felt okay.
Yeah, you'd seen it obviously in action and obviously experienced yourself, and obviously we know a couple of people at the club got it. I asked Rui Donaldson the same question. Did you find it a little bit strange that football was still going on whilst you were seeing all this stuff, when it all seemed that we were just hurtling towards another lockdown? But did it feel strange that there was some football? And also, you're a medical person, so you can only go on your own expert opinion, but to not be tested, it did seem a bit strange at the very least.
It did seem strange. The fact that we didn't go down that route, I found it very odd that clubs at an elite level or at a very high level did not have the facilities to test. I mean, how can you play day in and day out, week in and week out, and expect all these players to travel and then at the same time not provide them any testing? So you can't, you either have none or you have both.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Exactly. No, I agree. And I know the players were concerned, and rightly so. It did seem a bit strange, but also I know we have to look at the positives. Boxing Day, we beat Dorking. It was an incredible game, wasn't it? But for 90 minutes, we could forget the football. And for 90 minutes, everyone listening in to the commentary and things like that could forget COVID, not forget the football. But when obviously we came out the other side of Christmas and things weren't massively improving and lockdown was still going on, and the season we all knew was coming to an unfortunate and aborted end. As someone who was close to that group from the start of the season to the end, tell us what you thought about how difficult that decision was to bear, really.
I feel upset. Yeah. I'm not going to lie, because as I mentioned before, I really think this team could have been promoted. And I think if we did, we could have held on to a couple of our marquee players. Yeah. I felt really disappointed. I'm getting these flashbacks of just sitting there back into the training ground when Jack was telling us that the season was ending, and I just could see all of the players' faces they weren't happy.
Of course not, and you're absolutely right. The players have said it, and Gary mentioned it in the last podcast that it still hurts. Almost hurts even more because you can sort of make peace with it the first couple of weeks, and I'm the same as you, and might be a little bit biased, but something good was happening and starting to build. But I suppose, looking at positives, back in September, or end of August, you'd never heard of Hampton and Richmond Borough Football Club. Are you glad that your colleague pulled you aside that day and said you should get involved?
100%. 100%. I'm very glad that it happened, and obviously moving on forward until next season. Yeah, I would love it if Phil and everyone in management and the gaffer would have me back. Yeah, onto next season. There are a couple of things that there are a bit of ifs and maybes, and I've only told Mark and Phil about this. To be fair, I might be moving out of London soon. Okay. I might be moving really far away in August time. So there's a possibility I might not be at the club anymore. I've applied for a couple of jobs in London. If I do stay in London, then I would definitely love to be back at Hampton. Yeah. If not, then I'm not too sure, Seb. I'm not asking you to tie yourself down. Even if it was, and I think this is the one thing that I try and say to people, I think that's the beauty of the club. The two guys that were media people, the media guys before me, he's now a producer at BT Sport. The other one's a press officer at Leyton Orient, full-time club. There's nothing wrong with stopping off at Hampton for a little bit and enjoying your time and moving on. As someone who clearly loves his football, knows his football, and then combining it with your medical experience, what's been the biggest surprise, would you say, that you've experienced since you joined the club? I mean, just listening to the gaffer talk sometimes just makes it seem like there's a lot of things that I wouldn't connect, from the defense to the midfield, from midfield to the attack, how, the way we play and everything, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. And everyone needs to know their roles. I didn't know how that worked before, like Miller Rodney's on that player, you're on that player, you're on that player. And it's amazing how he manages to bring all of this week in and week out and have time to prepare for next week and the game after that and the game after that. And it's definitely given me a bit of insight on how to become a better football fan. I mean, when I watch United play now, I'm always thinking, what would McCann do? What would Gary do?
Yeah. Brilliant. That's brilliant. No, because he does know his football. Of course he does. The levels might be different, but I agree with you. And I think Gary is a shining light amongst his football club. And then off the back of it, the staff, you're a medically trained person. just in case anyone still needs convincing, or not convincing, but if anyone doesn't know, someone like Mark Finley is an impressive character, isn't he?
Unbelievable.
You know,
honestly, he carries the club. Like, those players, they play in 100% all the time because of Mark. He prepares them well. He stretches them out well. He delivers great and sound advice to them. He looks after them very well. He's like the father figure there in a medical point of view.
Yeah.
A lot of players look up to him.
We've got the centenary coming up, and talking of positives, and look, Fadi, if sadly you won't be with us, I hope you are, but if for one reason you aren't with us, what would you say to someone who maybe didn't know about Hampton and Richmond Borough, or decided, you know, they might be similar to you, they might have a Fulham season ticket, they might have a Brentford season ticket. Hampton and Richmond Borough is a lovely football club to be part of, isn't it?
I mean, if someone's going to come and pick up the pieces after me, I would just tell them, it's not up to you whether you want to enjoy it or not. You will enjoy it. The club just makes you feel like you're at home. It is a great place to be. Super friendly atmosphere. Everyone is great. From the top down, everything's awesome. And you will be sucked in. And Phil told me this in the start. He said, you will come to realize that you will be so sucked in with this football club that you're going to forget about Man United. Now, I haven't forgotten about Man United yet, but I'll tell you what, definitely there is a place in my heart for Hampton and Richmond. And whether that is, you know, if I come back in 20 years, 30 years time, when I'm ready to put my feet up and just watch some football without traveling and spending 300 quid to go watch the game and come back, then definitely going to see me at Hampton in the next 20, 30 years at some point.
Oh, brilliant. That's lovely to hear. I hope professionally, you know, this year has been fantastic for you. And if it helps you get another position somewhere else, even if it is the other end of the country, then it'll be Hampton's loss. I suppose final positive, not everyone has the answers, but are things more positive, shall we say, on March the 24th, 2021 in terms of COVID?
Definitely.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, where we were last year in March is very different to where we are now. I know the country seems like it's closed and nothing's really moving on and stuff, but from a COVID point of view, we're definitely doing much, much better at work.
I suppose if for whatever reason you're not back at Hampton and Richmond Borough next season, one thing I think that personally, one thing you've just missed out on, you know, is when the fans are back and after we've won a game and everyone's in Hammond's Bar and enjoying themselves, there's few better places to be. But hopefully you've enjoyed the chat with Fadi, and not just from a football perspective, clearly he knows it's football, but also from a medical perspective. It's a pleasure to hear your insight and thoughts. But Fadi, thanks very much. Forgetting football and forgetting all that side of things and Hampton Richmond Borough side of things, just on behalf of everyone, you know, thanks very much to you and your colleagues in the NHS for the incredible work that you've done and keeping us safe and well. So thanks very much for that. The next episode will be, don't know who it will be actually. I'm going to try and work it out. It's going to be a tough one to top after all that with Fadi. So Dr. Fadi, I should say. Dr. Fadi.
That's right.
Yeah. But, thanks very much, Fadi. And whatever happens from between now and the start of next season, we wish you all the best. And if you are with us, then all the better. But thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank you, Seb.